Okay. Awesome. So I think we are streaming live on Facebook too. So if you are just jumping on, as I have been saying to the other guys here, say hi, let me know where you're calling in from. And also start to think if you've got any questions, guys, because this is live so that we can answer your questions. So if you've got questions for Dr. Bart, if you've got questions for Dr. Axe that you would love to be answered, please make sure throughout the session, if you type them in to Facebook, if you type them into our chat, we will be able to answer those ones. Dave, good to see you on. Will Dr. Bart be doing push-ups live tonight? Oh, you know what? I'll have to tell him that that's a special request. He will have definitely done his push-ups before coming on live, though. That's for sure. But I don't know whether he will be doing push-ups live. But now that we have that request, I might have to get him to do it on a different show. Dr. Bart in the house, me and Dave were talking about you doing push-ups here.
Just got them done.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, I'm not sure we're going to do live push-ups on the show, but he will have done them.
Yes, I actually just hit, it was random. I don't know if I probably just say this, but I just hit my all-time one set max. Just random.
Wow. And
yeah.
What is that? Do you want to share? Or?
Yeah, I just did 80 push-ups in a row.
Wow.
So, who'd ever know? Like, who'd have thunk? Yeah, so. 80
push-ups is a good sign.
Yeah, you know, it's going to tie in perfectly. It's one of those things when I think if you just don't think about it, it's not that, you know, like it's easier. So,
I'm not sure whether I think about it or not, whether 80's going to happen for me in a row.
You'd be surprised, but it has to start somewhere. Like Dr. Hogshead would tell you that, you know, he's getting it down to his, I don't know what he's getting it down, but next time I see him, we'll have our little contest once again.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
There he is.
Yay. Hey, Josh, good to see ya.
We'll see if Josh gets tied in. Josh, you let us know when you can hear us. And then if you guys are just tuning in, let us know where you're from. Just kind of time in what town, city, country that you might be from. Dr. Axe, welcome if you can hear me yet.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
We got you.
Yeah. Right. I just moved into a new house yesterday, and and this is the first interview I'm doing on a new mic. So the fact that it's working right now is, man, fantastic.
Sweet.
That's awesome. Oh, we've all got, well, Bart says I got a new mic.
Nice.
I love it.
And I got my fancy mic.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome aboard, brother. Good to have you here.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah. Cool. All right, well, let's dive in. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Health Made Simple show. We are really excited for this episode. We have a really special guest that we can't wait to talk to. We've also just opened registrations for our 30-day health challenge as well, which we are super excited about. So you can go to drbartchallenge.com if you want to check out more about that. Each week, though, I start by introing our host, Dr. Bart, who has been a healthcare provider for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, nutrition and supplementation, and functional testing out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio at Seagrove Beach in Florida. So he's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a virtual health program for executives and entrepreneurs wanting to really take their health to the next level. So he's worked with thousands of people all over the world, celebrities and athletes. So we are always grateful to share what he's learned through his journey here on the show. And as I said, we have a really special guest today. So thank you so much to Dr. Josh Axe for coming on our show tonight. So Dr. Axe is a doctor of natural medicine, chiropractic physician, and clinical nutritionist, and operates one of the largest health websites in the world, draxe.com. Dr. Axe is an expert in functional medicine and herbal remedies and has been featured as a regular expert on the Dr. Oz Show and the 700 Club. So he also co-founded the supplement company Ancient Nutrition, which creates the world's most powerful collagen protein probiotics and certified organic herbal supplements. So we are super grateful that you've come on to chat with us.
Hey, great to be here. I think, you know, Bart probably wouldn't brag on himself like this, but Bart is my one of my personal physicians that I go to anytime I need any sort of muscle work, chiropractic, even acupuncture. We talk nutrition together. So excited to do all that tonight.
Sweet. Yeah. And I love, you know, Josh, I was trying to think back when you and I first met, like how we met. And, you know, being in the circles that we are, you would think we'd run into each other in those circles. But I think the first time that I ever met you, it was either in the adjusting room or it was up in the yoga room. Do you remember which one it was?
It was definitely one of the two. And to be honest, I can't remember. I do think that I needed an adjustment. I was on like we used to always drive down. Now we fly. But anytime we would come from Nashville down to 30A, I would, you know, it would be 7 hours in the car or 6.5 hours in the car. And so I'm like, man, I gotta get aligned here. And so I think I looked out that way. And then I think, you know, a few days later, we went to your yoga, you know, your wife's yoga classes, Kelly, and pretty sure that was it.
Yeah. You know, it's one of the things I love like about that connection, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot of time in your career just over the years, that the people in our profession kind of walk their talk. And it's exciting when, you know, I've got to know you a lot over the last couple of years, and the fact that every time you do travel, you come down to get a tune up. And like you said, well, when chiropractic or acupuncture, or you're up in the, you know, getting a massage, or you're in the yoga room. And I think that's, you know, it's one of those things that I think is so awesome about being our profession, the men and women that have always been involved, that you see so many people always just kind of keep raising the bar, just keep leveling up and learning and learning and learning. So tonight, with that being said, I want to do a little deep dive for you. So we didn't prep too much about what we're going to talk tonight. So I'm going to put you on the spot a bunch.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I know some of your passions, and I know some of the work that you've done. And I want to start by telling, listen, when we first ran into each other years ago, you were way, way out ahead of the curve. And I know you know this, but you know, for our listeners to understand that right now, Dr. Google is massive. Before Dr. Google was Dr. Josh Axe and all of your information that you're putting out there. And I know that as a clinician, we lean on it. We lean on you always being ahead of the curve. And from one clinician to another, I tell you, there was a gap for so many years where the information for holistic health and natural medicine just wasn't there. So I want to go through a couple of things. I want to do a deep dive with you tonight. And if you're open to it, and I know that, you know, ancient remedies, Chinese medicine is such a passion of yours, especially now. I would love to be able to go deep into, especially for our audience, and start to connect the dots between the emotions, the organs, the labels that we have of the different types of diseases and stuff like that. We can go a little bit deeper because I have some specific ones that we see on a regular basis now. I'd love to see some of the root causes and the root thoughts that are in there. But before we do that, I'd love to hear from your perspective. You're a doctor of chiropractic, you're a certified doctor of natural medicine, functional medicine, all that stuff. What makes you keep on wanting to learn more? Why do you keep diving deeper?
Yeah, for me, you know, I just feel like it's what God has called me to do. And I know for me, like, I'm so passionate because I know the effect it had on my family's life. Some people, maybe if they've heard me or read about me before, anything I've put out there in terms health-wise, but my mom had cancer growing up. And when I was in, you know, junior high, she was diagnosed with cancer, which was shocking because she was my gym teacher at school. She was, you know, she was into fitness, a swim instructor, and diagnosed with cancer. And our family lived in the medical model. When she got that diagnosis, she went through she eventually went through chemotherapy. She had a mastectomy. And I remember how sick my mom was. And the doctors eventually diagnosed her after going through all those treatments as cancer-free and healthy, but really she seemed worse than ever. She got put on antidepressant drugs, anti-anxiety drugs, thyroid medication, all kinds of stuff. And my mom was sick and tired for 10 years. 10 years later, I was actually a year away from graduating, going to open up my own, you know, functional medicine clinic in Nashville, very similar to how you practice, Dr. Bart. And right before she was diagnosed with cancer again, and this time we decided to take care of her all naturally. And we started juicing vegetables. We started doing a lot of these ancient remedies, reishi mushroom, turmeric, milk thistle, lots of these herbs and spices, doing a little bit of bone broth, wild salmon, lots of berries and antioxidants. And we followed a program, and 4 months later, my mom, we went back to the oncologist, and they said, they redid a CT scan, and they said, their exact words were, "This is highly unusual. We don't typically see this, but your tumors have shrunk by more than half." Went back 9 months later, complete remission. And today my mom is 67. She's in the best shape of her life. She actually lives in Florida in sort of the Orlando, Tampa area in between there. And she water skis, she runs. And so when I took what I learned through that process and through training with doctors who practice functional medicine and kinesiology and chiropractic, and I started applying that to my own practice, and being able to see people who, reverse diabetes and overcome hypothyroidism and balance their hormones, heal conditions like leaky gut, inflammatory bowel disease, like that's why I do what I do. And that's why I know you and I connect so well, Dr. Bart, because we share that same passion of teaching people how to use food as medicine, teaching people how to heal themselves, giving them the power back in order to take control of their own health.
I've heard, we've had that discussion before, and every time I hear it, it literally, it motivates me. And it makes me think about how many other people, if they had those opportunities, and I'm sure this is what drives it, if they had the opportunities that your mom have, might end up with different outcomes. It might end up with different options and things that they can do. So let's dive a little deep into that. And really, let's dive in, Josh, into, let's talk a little bit about root causes. So often in our profession, medical profession, just in health in general, we think that we get stuff, we catch stuff. Maybe we inherited it. Maybe we made this wrong decision, that wrong decision. Give me a little insight, and especially because I know you have a lot of passion in the ancient remedies and a lot of Chinese medicine. Talk to me a little bit about the bigger picture of root causes. And I know that's a broad topic, but talk to me a little bit about root causes of things like the thing that we don't ever talk about, cancer. Like, what are maybe some of the root causes that are really, really down deep there?
Yeah. So, and by the way, I love that I can see this. I don't typically, that's my fault. Sorry. I love that we have so many live people on here, over 40 people live. I love that. So I just want to say, hey to everybody here who's listening or watching live. And also I know we got a lot of people listening to recording here as well. And here's the thing. And by the way, this is why I also encourage everybody, hey, share this information we're about to talk about, because when I learned this with my own mom and when I learned this with my patients, it was a game changer in people understanding how to finally heal. Because what I'm about to talk about, like because here's what happens, Dr. Bart. Most of the time, hypothyroidism is a great example. Conventional medicine says, I'm going to give you a pill like Synthroid, and we're just going to treat it with a medication. The problem is then that depletes your body of vitamin B12 and zinc. So it actually causes gut issues long-term, weakens your immune system, affects your energy, and there's all these cascade of effects when you're using a medication. There is not a single medication without an adverse side effect. That's what our conventional model does. Your symptom may get better, but you're developing other problems at the same time. What tends to happen in some of the more even holistic and natural docs today, Dr. Bart, is they will say, hey, you've got hypothyroidism, maybe take Armour thyroid or some sort of hormone replacement therapy. And sometimes, hey, we're going to change your diet. We're going to get the gluten out. We're going to get the dairy out. And we're going to get better. We're going to give you some vitamins, some supplements, and that's definitely a much better way to go. Here's the thing though, when you look at ancient doctors, and this is why this is the way that you practice. This is why I refer to you that there's a few other people too, like my brother practices this way, a few others. It's actually practicing more ancient medicine. It's going back and saying, what did ancient practitioners do in Ayurveda and in Chinese medicine and in Israeli medicine, which is rooted in the Bible? Now, here's what they would do is they would say, okay, we're not going to just do a diagnosis. Why do you have this problem? And actually, hypothyroidism in Chinese medicine is known as a qi and yang deficiency. Now, when I first heard those words, I'm not going to lie, I was like, that sounds out there. I'm hearing words like qi and yin and yang. What is that? Here's what it is. It's a different language. It's just it's an Eastern language. And here's what they're describing. Qi is essentially your body's ATP. If we're talking about today's science, it's your body's energy. It's your adrenals. Okay. And so qi is really connected to your adrenals and your energy levels. And so it's kind of like your body's battery. I got my phone here, which I now put in airplane mode. And I've got my battery here right now. It's at 45%. And so if your battery is low, that's affecting how your body is actually fueling all of your body's other organs and cells. So it's important. So with hypothyroidism, we know, well, we've also got to treat the adrenal glands. Now, the other thing that happens is a yang deficiency is essentially your body's ability to repair itself. There are certain nutrients that are really important for that, including at certain adaptogenic herbs that are very powerful at supporting that. By the way, ashwagandha is the chief herbal in Ayurvedic medicine for boosting qi and yang, which is also why it's the most effective herb probably in the world for hypothyroidism. And so, and one other thing, there's another condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's where you have a sort of autoimmune form of hypothyroidism, and that's really connected then to your gut. Okay, that's the root cause there. So if somebody goes into their doctor today and they have Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hypothyroidism, their doctors tend to put them on a medication, maybe someone who's a little bit more holistic or doing a better job. They're changing the diet. So somebody might see a 50 to 75% improvement. But if somebody wants to see a 100% improvement, you've got to address those adrenals. You got to sometimes address the thyroid directly, and you've got to address the gut. And that's really getting to that root cause of disease. And I'll go on here for just another few minutes. And, you know, I know I'm a little long-winded here, but as we're talking about root cause, I think this is important. So there are different patterns in Chinese medicine. They call them the 6 evils. And they said, what really causes disease as well is sort of too much or too little. It's toxicity and it's deficiency. Okay. You have too much toxins, heavy metals, environmental pollutants, all that stuff. And you have a deficiency, not enough zinc, vitamin C, you know, antioxidants, probiotics, those types of things. So those are two of the things that sort of cause us to be ill, and we need to address those. Here's another thing though. This also falls in line with emotions, toxicity, frustration, anger, unforgiveness, worry, fear. Those things build up disease in our organs versus love, hope, faith. These things actually build and strengthen our actual organ systems according to all forms of ancient medicine. And so when I look at a person today, Bart, when I'm trying to find what the root cause is, I'm looking at a few things. One, internally, is their body too hot or is it too cold? Why do we call it a cold? That's ancient Chinese medicine. Like if you got a cold today, it's because your body is cold internally. What are all the ancient remedies for getting rid of a cold? There are things that are spicy and warming. When I first moved to Nashville, you'll love this. I had a pastor, and I said, his name was John, and he came in with a cold, you know, was not feeling well. And I said, hey, Pastor John, what do you plan on doing for this cold? I have a few recommendations. He's like, well, right now I'm just doing hot toddies. And I was like, a what? Because I was from Ohio. I'm from the north. I'm like, I had no idea what a hot toddy was. He's like, a hot toddy, you know, whiskey and cinnamon and honey. I'm like, okay. Whiskey is the hottest of all liqueurs, so it warms your body up. I don't think it's the ideal remedy, but it's actually better than beer, which is cooling. All that being said, all the ancient remedies are warming. It's garlic, it's cayenne pepper, it's oil of oregano, it's ginger. These things are warming and spicy. They're warming your body to kick a cold. So your body can be too hot or too cold, too damp or too dry. Many people today have what's called dampness, which is essentially candida or mucus buildup in their body, inflammatory bowel disease or Crohn's and colitis. You get a lot of mucus buildup in your colon and digestive tract. Of course, candida, you have a white coating on your tongue. This is also what causes loose stool and a lot of gas and bloating or most digestive issues. So a lot of us are struggling with that. And then also there's something called wind, which is too much movement, or stagnation, where the body isn't moving enough. So stagnation, like constipation, is a great example of that, or lack of, you know, your blood isn't moving enough, you know, some circulatory issues. So all that being said, when I'm looking at the root cause, I'm looking at all those things and saying, so for instance, if somebody has irritable bowel syndrome or leaky gut syndrome, I know most of the time there's dampness and there's coldness. So I'm going to give them herbs to warm up their body, like ginger, and I'm going to give them herbs to eliminate the dampness. A lot of the bitter herbs like pau d'arco or, you know, oregano, or even ginger actually is a little bitter, but there's a lot of bitter herbs, even sage, those things can help dry that up. And It's amazingly effective. And the same thing goes for food. There are foods that are drying. There are foods that are warming, cooling, hot, cold, everything else. And I know I just gave a lot of information, but that's kind of how I get to the root cause.
Josh, I absolutely love that. That's an amazing explanation. I tell you what, there's so many things that I got a bunch of questions I want to tag onto that. But for our listeners, and absolutely right, for everyone out there tonight, if you have questions, make sure that you're putting them in the chat line, and make sure you're sharing this out. This information, this is where those subtle little, those little tidbits, the simple health tips that sometimes transforms people's lives, because they go, well, I've got IBS. Maybe I can just add a little ginger in my life. Or I know that I've had hypothyroidism, and maybe by just taking an herb, I can start to move in that direction. So in that whole theme, Josh, I want to continue to move in that direction. And you talked about the emotions. So no doubt, these last 5 or 6 months, we've had something going on. And the emotions in the environment right now, there's more of some very specific emotions. I watch the people walk through my door. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and these last 6 months have been very specific. The emotion that walks through the door, there's less confidence, there's more uncertainty, there's these fears and angers that are taking place. Go a little farther with that. Talk to me about holding that in, especially in Chinese medicine, because you talked about qi. And this audience, I promise you, they get qi. They're not going to think it's too woo-woo. They understand it. That is our life force. That is what drives us. They understand that it is the battery that supplies everything with its life force. So going a little bit about those emotions of holding back or things that we suppress, where do we see those show up, and what common symptoms do we see there?
Yeah, so let me break them down. In Chinese medicine, they're broken down into essentially 5 categories. And so here's how this works. And so, when you have, there's essentially 5 organ systems that are affected. And by the way, this is an absolute, Dr. Bart will tell all of you this. What makes an equal amount of difference in your health, along with diet, is your emotional stress. In fact, I would even say, if somebody said, Dr. Jackson, you got to pick which one is a bigger influence on your health, it's actually your emotions. Yeah. And I've talked about nutrition for years. I mean, it's the biggest difference. Let's call it 51%. The other things are 49%, but it's the biggest difference in your health. So, and listen, we all know the root. We all know this deep down. Emotions cause you to be physically ill. Think about this. If you have the emotion, if a child gets really scared at night and has a nightmare, they can wet the bed. Why is that? Because the emotion of fear causes dysfunction of the kidney, bladders, and adrenals. If you have fear, it actually pumps, your body starts pumping out adrenal hormones. So we know for a fact the emotion of fear affects your adrenals and your reproductive organs. And so it can cause things like infertility. It can cause issues like prostate issues. It can cause issues, especially like adrenal fatigue. So there's that. The next emotion, let's say anger, okay, or frustration or impatience. That affects your liver and gallbladder. Why do we call somebody an angry drunk? Why does alcohol, so they drink too much, they'll start to become angry over time. It's because alcohol affects the liver, but the same thing, the emotion of anger causes toxicity of your liver and gallbladder. It affects your body's ability to digest fats, can cause constipation is a big thing in terms of frustration. And general detoxification. Think about worry. I remember when I was in school studying all the time, there was this girl I studied with, and she was always getting stomach aches, before final exams. If somebody's worrying all the time, we know that the emotion of worry affects your upper GI. It affects your stomach. It affects, a lot of your digestion. It can cause even acid reflux over time. The emotion of grief, or a loss or depression, that affects your immune system. It's your lungs and your colon. Those specific organ systems are the biggest ones affected. And by the way, worry, the one just before, that's essentially your pancreas and spleen. That can also cause blood sugar issues, diabetes, a number of other problems. And the last one here is really anxiety. The sort of anxiety you'd have with an anxiety attack, or a nervousness, sweating, high blood pressure. But anxiety is really, sort of that anxiety, nervousness is sort of this other one that starts to happen. And so all that being said, those are sort of the 5 categories, and some are crossover. Some emotions are connected, can actually affect 2 organs. Unforgiveness is such a big one. unforgiveness affects both your immune system and your detoxification system. It literally shuts down two organ systems if somebody is carrying with them unforgiveness for years. And so all that being said, all of those different emotions actually affect our organ systems. And right now, Dr. Bart, there are a lot of different emotions that people have been experienced during COVID. The biggest one has been fear that I've seen. People have a fear of what this virus could do to them. And I think the important thing to remember is, hey, if you're a powerful person, which all people are, they just need to embrace that and know that that's their identity. They're powerful. But when you know you're a powerful person, you realize, hey, God has equipped us with what we need to take care of ourselves. And you stop worrying and just say, hey, I'm going to be proactive and take care of myself. So it's like, hey, if you want to take care of immune system, here's all you got to do. You got to take herbs and you eat a diet that's rich in vegetables and fruits and collagen, things like broth. And then you load up on, elderberry and echinacea and things like reishi mushroom. And then, you do zinc, some vitamin C and vitamin D. And man, you've got the, immune system that can fight just about anything. So all that being said, I think fear is a big one. Anger, there's anger. This has become so political that now there's all these people constantly angry and frustrated with each other and all these other things going on. So anyways, those are probably the two biggest things. And then there's grief. Think about the amount of small businesses, people that have lost their business. I'm a big fan of college football. I grew up in Ohio, going to, games with my dad, and they canceled football season. There are people actually grieving over that. They're grieving over losing their business. These are heartbreaking issues that people are dealing with right now. And so anyways, there's a lot of and I think even more now than ever, being aware of taking care of yourself emotionally. So if a person out there is saying, you know what, I am living in a state of, I'm just lacking hope right now. Or I'm living in a state of fear. Again, I'll go to, I'll open my Bible or a devotional book or, hey, a positive, meditation and start saying, okay, I'm going to start filling my mind with this. Cause here's what everybody's doing. They're watching the news, and that is totally crushing your emotional health. I'm done. Go ahead. But that's kind of, my thoughts there.
And again, Josh, man, so much there. And it's so, you said a couple of things that, just really ring a bell that I think are just so true right now that when I see it as a clinician, it almost concerns me a little bit. I think about the fear and how fear suppresses the adrenal glands. We already had enough going against our adrenals. And I think about the fear, which you see the link already to the thyroid there. And then fear suppressing things like the liver. And that's where we hold that fear and that worry and concern, especially when we, looking from that Chinese model of where do we suppress the qi. So when I see those things incredibly, we've got to work on this guy up in here as much as anything to really start to express and start to open up in ways that we probably haven't practiced before. I think, like you said earlier, when it comes down to really being healthy, is it the mind what's more powerful than exercise and nutrition? And I'm going to agree with you. I think it's leaning 51% or more. And I say that for a couple of reasons, because listen, if we know how to exercise, we know how to eat right for the most part. Yet the thing that gets us off of those games is our mindset. For some reason, we're not rooted enough. We're doing that 30-day challenge coming up. And when I thought about what would I want people to do for a 30-day challenge to really make a change in their life, 23 years of information, you and I chatting and all these other great people, what would I want to bring into that 30 days? And of course, diet, of course, nutrition, of course, movement, things that, are going to help increase the vitality of the spine and the nervous system. But the one missing link that we don't see out there is the mind component. And we're going to put a strong emphasis on developing a daily routine, a ritual about what you said, about being powerful. And I know that sounds so woo-woo, but that statement right there that you said, that sometimes we forget that we are powerful. And when I hear about things like worry, suppressing the spleen as a clinician, I go, whoa, wait a minute, that's where our antibodies are made. And we're suppressing the spleen. These are the times that we, maybe more important than ever, that we really look at the big picture, that holistic approach, and step up to the plate and say, all right, what can I do for the mind? What can I do for the body? What can I do for nutrition? So, all right, with that, and again, man, that topic to me is such maybe the most important thing that I think that we have, as clinicians, as we as educators are really having right now and passing these messages along, because the suppression of those. So now let's talk about, the suppression of those emotions. You've been around acupuncture. I can share firsthand. Sometimes I'll use these Shen spots, and different Shen spots. You have one right here on your wrist. And that Shen spot is to calm the spirit. There's another one here to awaken the spirit right between your eyes. I've put needles in those spots, Josh, and then when I take them off, I've seen people have full-blown releases. So talk to me a little about what's going on when we suppress those emotions and hold back.
Yeah, so essentially a few things happen. And it depends on the exact emotion you're having. But like for a lot of people, when you're suppressing emotion, essentially think about it like this. Lack of movement is happening. Part of disease is movement. Like if you are, and this is, so let's use the spleen and pancreas as an example. Your upper GI, or, actually let me use this one. Let's use adrenals and reproductive organs. So if somebody's harnessing fear, we've talked a lot about fear. So if somebody's harnessing this fear, essentially what starts to happen is that area starts to go into protection mode. So we have, and I know Dr. Bart, you've trained people on this. You've got two nervous systems, or two areas of your nervous system that essentially the yin and the yang, but you have your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. So when your body's in a parasympathetic state, it's calm, it's relaxed. Your body's secreting digestive juice, its hormones are being released. Your body's healing and repairing itself. It's in a regenerative state. When you're in a sympathetic state, your body is in protective mode. That's why we call it a fight or flight response. And so what happens when your body is fighting or flying, like essentially your body's protecting and saying, okay, I'm trying to protect myself right now. When you have the emotion of fear, your adrenals and reproductive organs start to say, okay, hey, everybody buckle down. We're protecting, we're going into protective mode. But then you stop regenerating, you stop healing. Like your body is out of that mode. It's just purely protection. So what starts to happen is there's lack of nutrients getting that area, lack of blood flow. It starts to generate and create unhealthy cells, whether it be cancerous or other types of cells. And so that's essentially what happens there. And so, when somebody starts to eat healthier, let's say something like, blueberries, that's going to actually help that area a little bit. When somebody is going to see an acupuncturist or a doctor who's able to go to those areas, and acupuncture is amazing because what it does is it actually moves energy throughout the body. So if we need new and healthy nutrients and we need to bring blood flow and help heal your adrenals and reproductive organs, acupuncture is actually able to channel and bring energy to that area for healing and tissue regeneration. So that's what happens there. But with those things, the permanent fix, or the thing that has the biggest fix, is definitely you getting out of that fear mentality and start to say, you know what, I know that I've got a hope I've got a hope in my future. I think about, there's a Bible verse I love. It's Jeremiah 29:11. It says, God's got a plan and hope. He's got actually a hopeful plan for you in your future. And so for me, I meditate on that thinking, you know what, God is for me. He's not against me, man. He's got a great plan for my life. And I meditate on these things. I think on these things, and bam, it's like fear starts to flood out of you. But I think doing that combination of those three things that you talked about, going and changing your diet, doing those herbals, those things that are going to help those areas, like ashwagandha, great for reproductive health, great for fear, one of the best for that emotion. Doing things like acupuncture or kinesiology, that's going to sort of help really a lot of times experience those breakthroughs, get things moving. And then of course the emotional component is huge as well.
Yeah. And I think, when I think of fear, it's the fastest way I think that the human body ages itself. It's all that. Yeah. And I think when I say it that way, it rings people, then I catch their ear saying, all right, fear. And the interesting thing about fear, Josh, is that I don't think anyone walks around and says, I have fear. It's not an emotion that we recognize as fear. Maybe it's a tiger or a bear or a scary movie or something like that. But this almost growing used to being a little bit less than the best versions of ourselves. So I was having a conversation. So at our studio, we have a yoga teacher training school. And part of one of the things that my wife teaches, and I participate as well, is we have everyone start to learn how to do these power statements. One of the things I absolutely love. It's one of those things that helps us become enriched with, an inside out type personal power. And it's interesting now that people express in a way that they have fear of talking about themselves good. So for example, one of the things I always talk about is that, like when I had to give a demonstration, and I say, I do this every morning. I talk about, my mind is clear, my body is strong, my spirit is free. And I talk, and that's the conversation that has to start happening. Otherwise we pull on the emotions of other people. And that one of fear is very difficult to let go of, because sometimes we don't even know that it's there. So if people are hearing tonight, having that fear, the fear doesn't go away. We have to replace it. We have to choose something to put into place, whether it's prayer or meditation or, personal power statements, whatever it may be. All right. So Josh, I want to switch gears.
Let me just say that, because it's such a huge point.
It is.
And so it's not a complex, you got to replace it. There's a doctor I love. Her name's Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she is a neurophysicist, and from South Africa, just brilliant. And that's her whole thing. It's sort of like pulling out a weed. You got to pull out a weed and you got to plant something new there to grow. So anyways, I just wanted to hit on that. And it doesn't have to be real complex. You just got to pick a few meditations or prayers and readings, and just, man, start to retrain your mind every day. First thing, what I do first thing in the morning when I wake up, and then before I go to bed, like listen to like Bible or like a personal growth book on audio, just listen to it 15 minutes before I go to bed. But I think reprogram that first thing in the morning, first thing before you go to bed. By the way, I want to answer one of the questions on here. Is that cool?
Please.
Question here from Eric Leshaft. He said, is there a directory where I can locate a physician that practices Eastern and Western medicine? And I just wanted to say this. So one of the great things about today is there are a handful of doctors. There's like 3 that I recommend most. One is sitting right here virtually across from me. And so I would say, you can seek out now a virtual practice. And so what I would say is, if you yourself or your family members are struggling with any health problem, number one, I would, directly contact Dr. Bart here, because I know he has 1 day a week or 2 days a week where he sees people virtually from all over the country and literally all over the world. Like, I sent my mother-in-law actually to see him as well. And I've referred, people over the years to Dr. Bart as well. So number one is, there are, I don't know a good directory. I really wish I did. But I know several doctors, one of them, again, being right here, Dr. Bart, that I would just say, hey, number one, set up a virtual consultation. If you're looking for somebody who's local, though, let's say you live in California and you want to find somebody to actually do physical acupuncture, what I would recommend in that case is ask around through word of mouth and look up to see the reviews if if the acupuncturist has treated people and they've overcome serious medical issues like infertility, PCOS, hypothyroidism, other health problems. That's probably the best way. But the good news is today, you can see some of the best doctors in the world, like Dr. Bart here, through virtual consultations. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that as well.
Yeah.
So you brought it up. So one of my things I written down, I was like, all right, let's ask Dr. Axe a little bit about your health routine, your rituals. So, but I don't want you to hold back, because I know when we're off camera, you've got some stuff out there, and it might seem weird to the average listener. So I want you to, as much as you'll share with us tonight, walk me through that ritual, that morning ritual. It's something that I hold dear to my heart. I really think I go with the saying that you win the morning, you win the day, period. Talk to me about, if you would, as much as you want to share, with the ritual that has allowed you to continue to level up, to bring yourself to, a greater place of health, a greater sense of well-being, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of those things. And don't leave anything out. Like, if you do some weird energy work, let's hear about it.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll say for myself, I've learned over the years to start focusing on majors. Now, have I done a lot of different things, from infrared light therapy to, ice baths to everything else? Yes, for sure, lots. But let me focus on the majors, and then I'll share some of the other out of the box stuff. But one of the things I've done almost every day since I was in my early 20s, and so 18 years or so, is I've done what my hour of power in the morning, and the same thing, that quote, I've said it many times, the same thing. It's, you win the morning, you win the day. I get up about 6:15 a.m. every single morning, and I start off every morning spending time with God for an hour. And so I do 3 things. I call it my spiritual triathlon. I spend the first part of my morning, the first part of that hour, I go on what I call sort of a gratitude walk or a praise walk. I put on praise and worship music. I actually, if you were in Nashville and you saw a guy with his hands raised and sometimes talking out loud to God, like that's me. And so I'm sitting there just saying, thank you, God, for my beautiful, amazing wife. Thank you for my, baby girl who's 4 months old and for her smile and her health. Like, thank you, God, for putting me in a position where I get to do what I love every single day. So that's the first thing I do is I get really grateful and I spend time there doing that first thing in the morning. When I get back from my 15-minute walk, I'll sit down and I'll start reading something, either a Bible, a devotion, a spiritual book, a personal growth book, a leadership book, as I read a lot on leadership too. So I'll sit there and typically read for at least 30 minutes. And then I'll spend another 10 minutes or so in prayer or meditation. And so I sort of do that, those three things. I start off with sort of gratitude and praise, I read, and then prayer meditation. And I do that spiritual triathlon for an hour every morning. Next thing I do my superfood smoothie. I've done a superfood smoothie every day since I was probably 18 years old. So for 21 years now. And so I will do, here's what I typically put in there. I always put in typically coconut milk. I try and get my healthy fats there in the morning with coconut. The next thing I put in is typically a cup of berries. Now this week I've been doing figs because they're fresh, but sort of depends. But again, a lot of times I'll do blueberries. Is probably the most common thing. And I'll put that in a smoothie. And then I'll add in collagen protein. I do multi-collagen protein from Ancient Nutrition, or I'll do bone broth protein from Ancient Nutrition. It's a company I co-founded, and I'll put in typically like a vanilla flavor, collagen powder. And then I do other stuff. Like I do a lot of goji berries. Goji berries were prized in ancient Chinese medicine for your adrenals and for longevity. And so I do a lot of goji berry. Sometimes I'll do the maki berry. Sometimes I mix it up. Like I do a lot of different things. There is an herb I've been doing for quite some time now. It's called fo tea or hishuwu in Chinese medicine. And it was, as ancient lore goes, which I only have a few little white hairs here, on my sideburns, but it was, the ancient lore goes is that there was a physician who had his hair would turn gray, and he started taking faux tea every day, and it turned it back black. But it's really known for being an anti-aging herb in Chinese medicine. One of the most used for Bart will be familiar with this, but it's Jing. It's actually the #1 Jing tonic, which is sort of, anyways, it's good for anti-aging. So I'll do that. And then I tend to take my supplements. I do reishi mushroom. The herbs I probably take the most, the reishi mushroom is probably the most, along with ashwagandha and turmeric. Those are the three that I do really, really consistently all the time. And then a lot of times I'll do a probiotic. And I don't always take a multi. If I'm traveling, sometimes I'll take a multi. If it's the middle of the winter, I'll take vitamin D. So like my supplement regimen will change depending on the time of year. The other thing is, like, if it's the middle of winter or fall, and I know that I'm going to experience some dampness or change of seasons, like I'll do a pumpkin smoothie rather than a blueberry smoothie, because that's really good for gut health, really good for candida. So that's sort of how I start but every morning I spiritual triathlon, my collagen superfood smoothie, and then I work out. I tend to work out for about an hour, and I have all that done. I typically then start my work day around 9 a.m. and all the stuff that goes along with that. But that tends to be my morning.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's we're singing a similar language there, which is great. And I think I think for everyone listening, think about that morning time and how much more powerful we can make it, and the little rituals that we can bring in there. And in the beginning, it's going to take some discipline. They're not always fun, but that's the whole idea of discipline. It takes something that would help you level up, and that would help you gain ground in your life, and then eventually make it into a habit. And I can relate to those. I've got my habits in the morning very, very similar. Since we got a little time left here, Josh, so
yeah.
Since you brought up collagen, and and I can tell you as a clinician, probably one thing that seems to be related to every condition that walks around out there is the gut. I know that's a pride and passion of yours. I remember, quite frankly, I'll tell you what, guys, Josh, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I really think in our country, or maybe even worldwide, you brought collagen to the table. Like, you're the first person that I really, for a lot of us clinicians and a lot of people out there, you really exposed how beneficial collagen can be for the human being. I've shared with you, I use your multi-collagen that covers it all for me. I'll use it twice a day. I use more than what's recommended, but that's something like that, it's good. I've had a history of gut issues. Talk to me a little bit about both of those. Collagen, it's multi uses, and then also dive in a little about the gut health, because everything we're talking about tonight, with a faulty gut, we got problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where, listen, and I know that there are people who are trying to decide between, an omnivore diet or more of a vegan diet. But I just want to say this for myself. People have asked me, are you plant-based? And I think that means that's vegan. 50% of my meals at least are plants. But I will say this, one of the things I have seen, and if we're talking about the biggest deficiencies across the board with most people, collagen is one of the biggest deficiencies. Once people are in their 50s, their body's producing 75% less collagen in their 20s. And collagen is what makes up, listen to this, probably close to 80% of your gut lining, your entire gut is made up of collagen. Your skin, your hair, your nails, your bones, your discs, your ligaments, your tendons, your connective tissue, your fascia. All of those areas are made up of collagen. When a mother is creating a placenta, that's actually made up of mostly collagen. So collagen is critical. 1/3 of all the protein in your body is collagen. And years ago, Dr. Bart, you remember this, there was a big craze, an important craze that was true of, you need a balance of omega-3 fats and omega-6s. And so we need to be getting more omega-3 like fatty acids in our diet when you're consuming fats. The same goes for collagen. It's sort of this, it's actually like a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 ratio, the same as omega-3s to omega-6s. If you want collagen proteins and muscle building proteins. Here's the surprising thing is most people think, oh, there's plant and animal protein. Yeah, there are plant and animal, but really most of the plant proteins are actually very similar in amino acid profile to animal proteins. Rice is very similar to egg protein in a lot of the amino acid profiles. Pea is very close to, chicken and vice versa. So anyways, I think it's just important to remember we need more collagen, and our ancient ancestors got that via bone broth. Biggest area they were getting is they made homemade bone broth. They would drink this soup and it would nourish not just their soul, but all of these other areas of their entire body. And so, I've worked with a lot of people that they have noticed I can just say this, of all the products I've ever recommended, the biggest game changer in seeing a night and day difference in people's health, I'm going to put up a few different ones, but collagen is up there in my top 3 with probably like turmeric, ashwagandha, and maybe probiotics. But those are like the ones that I've just seen. And if somebody's really not getting it, sometimes vitamin D. But those are the ones that's just like, wow, for some people. I've had people with leaky gut syndrome or major gut issues who started taking collagen and literally, bam, noticed a huge difference. People with major skin issues like crow's feet or cellulite or premature wrinkling, like any of those skin issues, man, collagen more than any cream you can put on your face, anything else, people will notice a difference in their skin. So all that being said, collagen is a big deal. But number one, because remember this, Hippocrates said all health or all disease begins in the gut. If your entire gut, as I just said, is made up of collagen and you're not giving your body these building blocks, it's a really big deal. Number one building block is collagen. Number 2 is there are some herbs and berries and foods that support your body in producing its own collagen. It's not as powerful and it doesn't work as well as, let's say, just taking real collagen. But in addition, things that support stem cell regeneration and that are stronger adaptogens are probably the most beneficial. So, things like ginseng and, is probably up there. Faux tea that I mentioned, Romania is a big one in Chinese medicine, reishi. And then, probably things that support like nettles and horsetail, and then vitamin C rich foods and zinc rich foods. But vitamin C and zinc are both critical for collagen production as well.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with you. That little list you had there, turmeric, ashwagandha is probably one of the herbs that people literally that day can notice. Once you bring that herb, it can, calm the hypothalamus gland and help balance out the hormones. And collagen is one of the ones where I think you just see the steady progress, literally years into taking the product, especially as we age and your body has less ability to take it and you continue to take it. Hopefully eventually you get that comment and be like, oh, you don't look 50. So that's and I'm personally using it, and that was a missing link. I had made a lot of changes in my diet, and the changes weren't adding up necessarily to healing. And it was literally, I don't know how long you've been doing that, but it might have been, 5 or 10 years ago when I really started to incorporate the collagen into diet, and then the changes equated into more healing, which was really interesting. So you brought up another word, which I think I want to tap in just a little bit here too, and it's adaptogens. Moving forward with the herbs, and we're starting to really, I think herbs are really starting to come to the forefront. And I think you'd agree with me, where we know the power of them, especially in, the ancient remedies. And I know it's a little early to talk about this, but I do want to, at least bring it up. We talked off the air about you're coming out with another book. And is it called Ancient Remedies?
It is, yeah. It's the book is called Ancient Remedies.
And I know it's not probably for a little while, so no one can even pre-order yet, but I think it's coming in February. And I can imagine in those Ancient Remedies, you're going to be speaking a fair amount to these adaptogens, these adaptogen herbs. Could describe that for us, for listeners here tonight, because I think that's a word they don't really understand. They're starting to learn things about echinacea, starting to learn things about ashwagandha, romania, astragalus. You talk about cellular vitality there. So, what is an adaptogen? How can we make that simple for everyone to understand?
Yeah, and by the way, actually, I should be more in touch with my publisher. It actually is for sale. So, anyways, I'm going to just post a link here.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'll post it in just a sec. So, yeah, so adaptogens are herbs and berries that really, sometimes barks, different things that really help settle. They tend to bring down cortisol. And they tend to de-stress your organs. Remember, we talked about this earlier, everybody. We talked about, Dr. Bart and I were talking about how, different emotions sort of cause stagnation and build up disease in certain organs. They stress certain organs. So worry stresses your pancreas and your spleen and your upper digestion. Depression, weakens your immune system. It stresses your immune system. Well, what they do is these adaptogens, they de-stress certain organ systems and they help your body better adapt and deal with those stressors. So ashwagandha is one of the chief adaptogens for your adrenal glands and your qi in Chinese medicine and reproductive health. So it's really going to help there. And really that's also connected to the thyroid. So it's going to be a de-stressor for that. Astragalus, actually, that's one other herb actually I'll mention here, Bart. I think we're going to see this in the future. I hope the next ashwagandha is going to be astragalus. In fact, the most prescribed herb in all of Chinese medicine, one of the top 3 likely, or I'll throw 4 out there, is going to be number 1 is probably astragalus. It's probably the most prescribed herb. And it actually de-stresses your immune system and your gut and your digestion, those those systems. So if somebody has leaky gut syndrome, the number 1 herb they could probably take is astragalus, and for autoimmune disease. Really, or candida. I mean, it's really, really powerful. So it's an adaptogen for those organ systems. Dong Quai is not an adaptogen we hear about much, but it's actually in China, they call it female ginseng, or the female adaptogen. Actually helps build the blood. This is very good, especially for young women who are having any sort of menstrual issues or any type of anemia. It helps de-stress your blood and helps build your blood. Things like rhodiola rosea, that's more of an adaptogen for your lungs and your respiratory system, as are cordyceps mushrooms. So they're really going to help in that way as well. Romania, so where ashwagandha is a qi yang tonic, Romania is a qi yin tonic. And so for a lot of men that tend to be like, heavy weightlifters and have all of this build up tension and stress in their body, Romania is another good one. It's sort of the yin to the yang of the ashwagandha that was used a lot in Chinese medicine. That's also really powerful. But if you're wanting to know just the best overall one to take for most conditions, ashwagandha is probably number one as an herb. Reishi mushroom is probably the best in terms of a mushroom. And those are the two I probably prescribe or have recommended the most over the years. But also the third one is definitely astragalus. Those would be the three I would consider using most. And then for anti-aging and for prostate and those sort of issues, FOT is another one. So, but adaptogens, they help your body, they reduce stress on your organ systems.
Yeah, and again, that great explanation of adaptogens, and they really just help us adapt to life. And you can find, you know, as whatever the needs that we have, you can really curtail and customize that herbal plan for us as individuals. And I agree 100%, Josh. I think that astragalus is going to really be kind of elevating up and talked about in many different ways. We even use it after, if someone's gone through chemo or radiation. It's an herb that we use regularly to help the body adapt to having those chemicals in the body. So there's so many of these ancient remedies that are literally phenomenal. So everyone, if Josh, if you can put that link in there, make sure you guys get a chance to read the book. I know I'll be ordering to make sure I'm going to read it as well. So, and I'm super excited. It's so funny that you said that, because you said to me the other day, oh yeah, it's not out until February. Your publicist's going to be mad at you.
Well, no, it's not. This is pre-order. It will not ship, just so everybody's aware, it will not ship till, you know, like February 1st. But I'll say this, it's the book I'm most excited about. I've wrote, I think this is probably my maybe 6th or 7th book, but it's the one I'm most excited about because I feel like it's going to, like, there's an index in the back of nearly, it's between like 70 and 100 health conditions where if somebody has hypothyroidism, they can flip to the back and see the exact foods to eat, what not to eat, the supplements to take, the herbs, the essential oils, the lifestyle practices. So it's also sort of a reference manual for conditions. So anyways, I'm excited for everybody to be able to check it out.
Yeah, and now that you say that, even as a clinician, I'm excited for it. So everyone, and there's a link right there. Check it out. So Karen, do we have any questions that, because Josh, we're live on Facebook right now as well. So there's a whole other audience that might be asking.
Awesome.
We are. Yeah, we've got a couple of Facebook questions here, and we'll also we'll take that link and post it in Facebook. So if you're listening on Facebook, we'll make sure we put the link there for you so that you can pre-order Josh's new book, which I'm going to do too. So first question on Facebook, is collagen good for psoriasis?
You know, I would say this is collagen is good for, I believe, your skin. For sure. Okay. So I would say if you want to have healthy skin, because here's the deal. Guess what? 90% of your skin is collagen, that much of it. It is almost pure collagen. And so anyways, knowing that yes, I absolutely believe for skin health, collagen is a game changer, probably the number one thing people should do for anything you want to do to support your skin health. Now, I want to talk to psoriasis specifically. We really need to reduce heat and dampness according to Chinese medicine. And so with that, you know, I would take some anti-inflammatory herbs are going to be beneficial there, whether it's turmeric, it would be a good one there. And then I believe probiotics are really big for psoriasis as well. Really, psoriasis is connected to your colon health, the health of your gut. And so really doing things like probiotics to support your body there, I think is really important. By the way, my father-in-law had psoriasis for years. He's taken 3 medications, light therapy, and his is it's about 95% gone now, has a little bit of flare-ups in the winter. But I put him on a diet that was really high in fruits, vegetables, bone broth, probiotics, and then had him start doing higher doses of vitamin D, doing a little bit of infrared light therapy, and boom, I mean, just amazing what happened to it, how much better it got.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Thank you for helping that person out.
And by the way, my father-in-law saw Bart and did a cleanse with him this winter. So, hey, you want to see some big improvements, do this 30-day challenge. I think I got some of my family members who are doing it too. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice. Yeah. And we put the link to the challenge we'll put it in Facebook as well if you guys wanted to know. Okay, we've got another question about your smoothie. Pumpkin or pumpkin seeds?
Pumpkin. And so what people don't realize, pumpkin is probably of all foods, it's one of the foods that has a good amount of fiber, a high amount of fiber, but it actually has the easiest type of fiber to digest of all foods. That's according to Chinese medicine. If you look at I'm not comparing everybody to dogs, but if you want to support dogs in having healthy bowel movements, the number one vegetable that they give to dogs for healthy bowel movements is just canned pumpkin. And so what I've done with patients who have inflammatory bowel disease and who have leaky gut or candida, I have them do about a half a can to maybe like a third to a half a can of pumpkin, some almond or coconut milk, and then I have them do some vanilla collagen powder and a little bit of pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon, and I have them do that as a smoothie. And I'm just telling you, I mean, the results I've seen when somebody has done that consistently with inflammatory bowel disease or gut issues has been really, really awesome. So again, it's just a little bit of coconut milk, pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon, and the vanilla collagen powder. And it's really amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try that myself because I have to admit I haven't put pumpkin in a smoothie before. So I'm gonna give it a go. All right, we just got a couple of last questions.
Sure.
One is, would you share some of the health practices you're doing for your 4-month-old at the moment?
Yeah. So, my wife and I just had our daughter, Arwen Elise, Axe. She's 4 months old. And by the way, it's just been such a joy. Like this is my first child, and man, just seeing her grow and develop, and it's been awesome. And also, I'll just say this too, like my respect for women was already like here, and now it's, I can't even get my hand that high. We did a natural birth at home, a pool birth, and we had our midwife over, and it was just such a blessed experience. We were playing, praise and worship music, and just like it was just a supernatural, blessed experience, having our birth at home like that. And man, it was just awesome. So some of the things we were doing, like even for my wife through her whole pregnancy, it's really so important. So I'm going to take just a little time here, because I think this is just something that I think, as I did so much research and worked with patients in the past, but also my own wife, like when a woman is looking to carry a child, or let's say to just conceive, that's all about your adrenal and reproductive health. Okay. And so if a woman is struggling with infertility and unable to get pregnant, it's an adrenal issue. And so it's like your here's what's happening with your body. If you aren't able to get pregnant, typically your adrenal battery's at like 40%, and your body's smart at saying, listen, until we get up above 50, 60%, like I don't have the energy to create a new human being. And so that's why a lot of people with infertility, that's what that organ system is overstressed and it's depleted, to where if you can start to, and Dr. Bart mentioned this earlier, I wanted to go off it because it was such a key statement. He said, when you're living in fear, you're not always thinking about, oh, I'm in fear. Stress so often it's something we don't realize. By the way, I'll just share this. Like I dealt with leaky gut my first 2 years of practice, and I could not figure out why, because I was eating perfectly. And I went to see a doctor of Chinese medicine named Gil Banami. And he said, Josh, he said, you never turn it off. He said, what do you do after you eat dinner at night? I'm like, well, I watch TV or read something, and I work on my laptop for another 4 hours, writing an article or doing whatever. And he said, listen, you need to unplug. He said, or you essentially need to plug in, which is do nothing. I'm like, at first I actually felt guilty. I'm like, I'm not being productive right now. And I actually had to emotionally work through it. And I just unplugged and said, you know what? I'm going to read a novel for fun. I'm just going to start reading more and just relaxing, and like literally gut healed, bam, 30 days by unplugging. All that being said, if you're struggling with infertility, it is so much about, you got to restore those adrenal glands. You got to unplug, relax. You got to do things that bring you joy. You got to, so that's the part of consumption. So with Chelsea, we knew, hey, we got to keep stress low. Let's do fun things together. Let's just do things that you love to do. Carrying a child, if somebody has a miscarriage, it's typically caused by your pancreas, your spleen. It's really your pancreas in Chinese medicine. It's related to insulin. And your body is unable to carry the child due to that organ system. That organ system in Chinese medicine is known as your earth element. Think about Mother Earth. And so there are certain foods that actually support that organ system, foods that are orange, or think about the food you'd eat during Thanksgiving or in early fall. What is fresh then? What's orange? Pumpkin, butternut squash, cinnamon, sweet potato. It's these foods, and it's orange foods. And you also are doing keeping carbs lower, generally speaking, that aren't aside from those. So you're getting some healthy fats, you're getting some things like grass-fed beef or salmon, that nice orange color, and lots of pumpkin and cinnamon, an amazing herb there. And that's really going to help. So with my wife, Chelsea, getting pregnant, we knew, hey, we're going to support her adrenals. We're going to, you know, we're going to support her, her pancreas and keeping insulin levels balanced, especially using things like cinnamon. And then, during childbirth, she was doing red raspberry leaf tea and dates to soften her cervix. So we did those two. We did a little evening primrose oil, and we were getting her adjusted, you know, chiropractic care, that type of thing. We were doing all around time and some acupuncture during her, you know, leading up to pregnancy. And then after, you know, like she just kept her diet real simple. It was like meat, vegetables, and like healthy fats, and maybe some rice and quinoa and those sorts of things, like no spices. And we were making sure getting lots of healthy fats. She took a prenatal omega-3 fat, collagen, prenatals, omega-3, and probiotics. Those are probably the biggest supplements that that she took.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for going into so much detail about that. I know it's super, super valuable for everyone. So can we ask one more question?
You can ask as many more as you like.
Okay, all right, awesome. We've gone a little bit over, but we'll just answer this one, and then we've got our last question for you as well. The question we always ask everyone. But we've got a question from Booker here on Zoom, and they say, why is wheat, dairy, oat, and oil supposed to be toxic or unhealthy, whereas 40 years ago this wasn't unhealthy for you?
He said wheat and dairy.
Wheat, dairy, oats, and oils.
You know, I would disagree with oats. I think oats are still seen as being a healthier food by some. The dairy and the wheat products, here's the thing. Wheat is not unhealthy. It's more unhealthy now because of what we've done to it, and also because of the way our modern diets are. You know, when I went over to Italy, my wife and I have been over there a couple times. We had this ancient wheat called einkorn wheat, which grows with the other thing that grows that you'll see, like if you go to Tuscany in Italy, it's all vineyards and wheat fields. You know, that's like this great, it's beautiful. And like we ate pizza over there, you know, and we felt great. And I'm really sensitive. Like my wife, now I do fine with gluten. She does terrible. I do terrible. We both do terrible with dairy, but we had some over there and we did just fine. Today, wheat has been hybridized. It's not the same ancient wheat that grows in Europe. It's double the levels of gluten. They've done it to make it fluffier, have less fiber, less nutrients. It's very hard to digest because of the level of gluten. Also, wheat is the most dampening of all grains. In Chinese medicine, it's known to be very damp. So if somebody already has dampness or gut issues, it's going to cause it to become more of a problem. And so listen, some people are going to digest wheat just fine. If you don't have dampness, if you have a really bolstered, strong digestive system, you're going to do fine with wheat, and wheat can be healthy for some people. But the truth is 80% of people, many more people struggle with this damp environment internally. And because of it, it's going to make their symptoms worse. And the same goes for dairy. The most dampening of all foods tend to be dairy, wheat, egg whites, oils tend to be some of the more dampening of all of the foods. And so again, if you are doing, and here's the big reason why. In other countries, they eat a lot of bitter herbs. Bitter herbs are drying. We have almost no herb consumption in America today. If you go to the Middle East, India, and Asia, they are loading up on herbs and spices. You go into a market there or someone's home, it actually you'll smell herbs and spices. You go to a grocery store in America, it smells like nothing, or maybe bleach. And that's it. And so like herbs and spices, when we use the term medicine up until 150 years ago, medicine was herbs and spices and glandulars. Like you went into an ancient apothecary, bam, that's what was going on inside of there. Today we eat all sweet and salty. We get very little bitter and sour, and bitter is the flavor that dries out dampness within our body. So I think people would tolerate wheat much better if they're using ancient wheat, especially that's sprouted or, you know, fermented in a sourdough process. And if they're getting more of these bitter herbs, think about this. When I went to Italy 2 years ago, and again, you know, 6 years ago, we sat down at these great places in Florence, Italy, And we had olive oil, but it was powerful. You tasted it was like herbs exploding in your mouth. And then they put a bunch of herbs in there. So you would take your sourdough ancient wheat bread, you dip it in this olive oil with all of these herbs, and you felt fine. Sorry, I could speak another hour on food combining too. And I know we don't have time to go there, but like in ancient Ayurveda, they knew this. It's like turmeric golden milk. It's a recipe. It's a blend of turmeric, a warming spice called trickatu, which is ginger, black pepper, long pepper, and then healthy fats. And they knew over 3,000 years ago, turmeric does not get through the body easily. In order to get it everywhere, you need warming spices. So anyways, all that being said, like medical study came out 9 years ago that said, we just had a medical breakthrough. We found when you combine black pepper or the compound piperine with turmeric, it increases absorption. We've known that for 3,000 years now. And anyways, I digress. But all that being said, I think wheat and dairy can be fine if you load up on the bitter herbs and spices and get your digestive tract healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we would love to hear you continue on that on that road. So we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.
But first, let's move on to our last question. So each week, we like to make health simple for our listeners. And so we talk about becoming superhuman, which is how we say, you know, being the best version of yourself. So what is one action item that our listeners today can take away and implement right away to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
I'm going to cheat and give you two because that's just how I roll. So here's what I'm going to say. Two things. Number one, do that spiritual triathlon. Win the morning, as Dr. Bart talks about every single day. Like wake up, even if it's 15 minutes, like wake up, say everything you're grateful for, you know, thank God, like, you know, just get grateful, start off your morning that way. Number two, read something, feed yourself, whether it's, again, like I crack open my Bible or a personal growth book or a spiritual book of some sort. I'll just read for 5 minutes. I'll read on a topic like love or gratitude or kindness. And I'll read that. And then for 5 minutes, I'll either pray and have a conversation, connect with God, or I'll meditate on how am I going to take that kindness practice and who do I need to be kind to today? Who needs love? Like, and think through that. If you just do that for 15 minutes every day, I'm telling you, I'll miss doing that on occasion if I'm traveling or something. It's literally like I didn't plug myself in. Like it is such a game changer if you can do that spiritual triathlon in the morning. And number two, do that superfood smoothie. Listen, even if you don't change your whole diet, even if you just change breakfast, for most people, that's changing 1/3 of your entire diet. Like that's a huge improvement. And so start doing that collagen smoothie with a scoop of collagen, 1 cup of berries, and you can either do water or coconut milk. You really just need 2 main ingredients. It's collagen and it's fruit. Start doing that and you can add greens if you want, spin it, you know, you can spice it up however you like, but just start doing that spiritual triathlon, doing that superfood smoothie for breakfast. And if you can do those 2 things, we talked about a million things that are out there, all kinds of stuff. But if you just do those 2 things, I guarantee huge breakthrough in your health and probably your life as well.
Well, we love that because I think they are 2 things that everybody can take away and start right away, right? No excuses. Get themselves some collagen and start making those smoothies. So we are so grateful for you to jump on with us here today. Thank you so much again. To everybody else, we're going to be back same time next week. And don't forget, drbartchallenge.com is, we are launching today.
I do want to mention this last thing too, that Dr. Bart, I just so you know, I am so grateful for you. I know, you know, we met it's probably about 7 years ago or so. And man, I just appreciate you, like Karen, for me, my family. I know I've sent a lot of my family members to you. And that's another thing too, I'll just mention. I think for so many people, a lot of times we're trying to walk blindly through this whole sort of how to take care of our health. And having a practitioner, someone like Dr. Bart, who can lay out for you exactly what to eat every meal. Here's the other thing. There's no one diet for everybody. Like in my book, Ancient Remedies, I start getting into like, everybody is different. Like some people do great on the keto diet. Some people don't. Some people do fine vegan. Some people don't. Like everybody is differently. And so the thing that I appreciate about Dr. Bart is like connect with someone like Dr. Bart or Dr. Bart himself. They can lay out for you what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what supplements to take, and help customize and create a personalized health plan for you. That's something that was so big for my mom experience at Breakthrough. Like I created him a customized plan for her. I did the same thing which I don't practice anymore, but when I did run my functional medicine practice, I used to do that. So I think that's another thing so important. Remember, if you can connect with somebody who can walk you through even just once or twice, like exactly what to do for your health. And the great thing, we're living in a virtual world today. You can connect with one of the best doctors in the entire world. Again, with Dr. Bart here, and excited to see what my family thinks about your 30-day challenge. I might jump in and do it as well. So I want to say thanks, Karen, for having me on. Dr. Bart, thanks for sitting on. And Dr. Bart, actually, I may come in and see you Friday. We're flying down from Nashville down to Florida. So looking forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Well, Josh, you know you're always welcome, and I want to thank you, of course. You know, as a practitioner, the greatest compliment we ever get is a referral, and especially when it's a family member. So I appreciate you as well, and I appreciate what you've done, literally for, literally our entire profession. And it goes, and you've been able to help guys like me and women like me, other practitioners like myself who have been able to continue to spread the love. So I want to thank you for being here today, for your time. And then you got yourself a new house, a new baby, and everything. Tell Chelsea we said hi and we love her. And for everyone who's on tonight, share it out, spread the love. You know what to do here. And of course, Josh, thank you. And for the audience here, you guys know what to do. We're going to take deliberate action, of course, for our mind, for our body, for overall wellness, and y'all be awesome.
Thanks, everybody. God bless.